interwebs, hey! Alright, today I want to do a comparison between two really solid consoles, okay? Portable consoles. I want to do the 3DS versus the Vita. Now this isn't necessarily reviews in the systems, but this is more a comparison, contrast between the two of them. You know, see how they compare. Which one would actually come out top in a battle of the systems, right? So let's go. First, let's kick off with a little bit of history though. So, Nintendo has always dominated the portable market. Why? They started out with the Game Boy, which was cheap, inexpensive, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful because they could crank out game after game after game after game. Sega, meanwhile, did the Game Gear, and the Game Gear had a very short lifestyle. It was, while a more powerful system, it actually did not do as well because it was too expensive to maintain, to keep up, and so forth. So Sega was the less wanted system of it. And Nintendo overcame any obstacle that was put before them during the 90s, up until they did the Game Boy Advance. Now the Game Boy Advance is an interesting one because you basically went from having a portable gray brick to, when they did the Game Boy Color, it was more like a portable NES, to Game Boy Advance, which was like a portable Super Nintendo. Now, we come up to the first clash between Sony and Nintendo, and that's when you have the PSP versus the original DS. And I know this is a DS Lite, but had all the same features, pretty much the same power as the original DS, so we did a comparison. And while this was a great media player, this had not only a dual screen, touch screen, some interactions, innovation that people could have used in their games, and did oftentimes. Meanwhile, this was like your straightforward, hardcore gamers apply here. This was great because you also had your UMDs, which I do have a UMD right now. UMDs, basically miniature DVDs, would go on the back, slide in, there you go. You're ready to rock. Now granted, having a drive like that did deaden the battery quicker on these. So you're always going to be attached to a power outlet or car adapter or something if you're going to be watching UMDs. If you're playing downloads, it did actually have a Sony proprietary format. And I know this is a SanDisk one, but this format here is proprietary by Sony, which means that if you didn't meet all Sony standards, it wouldn't work in the system. So the PSP was Sony's first attempt, and while it was a great system, it was my choice over the 3DS. I do have to admit that this was not as great in the showing as this was a portable PlayStation 2 for all intents and purposes, and it did a lot of really good things, but it couldn't keep up with the original DS because it didn't have the back library. I mean, again, your original DS, I can plug my Game Boy Advance games in there, and I can play anything I want from my older systems. Great marketing, great backwards compatibility. Nintendo really nailed it on this one. Sony, on the other hand, they were thinking like, this is your new MP3 player, this is your new all-in-one system, jive at it. And so it didn't work out as well. But those are the predecessors to our new power systems, our contenders. And let's look at them for what they are. Now, graphic-wise, and you've seen me do reviews on Vita games. Granted, I used the PlayStation TV to get them through, but still. Vita games are essentially PlayStation 3 quality titles. And these right here, Sony did a lot of good stuff with this because they actually took some of the PlayStation 3 titles and they actually put them on here. You get the same experience. There's not much difference. Granted, games like Dead or Alive, you can see some of the textures are removed, but for the most part, though, this gets the look and feel of PlayStation 3 down very well, considering it's a portable system. This, on the other hand, N64 maybe? I mean, this is a few generations behind. And yes, Nintendo, again, is notorious for using older hardware. And so you're getting basically N64 style graphics on a system in the time of PlayStation 3. So we're what, 2 generations ahead of it? C'est la vie. So point is definitely going to go to the Vita here. Let's look at the control and feel. Wide. Look at this. Look at this. My hands are wide. I've got these nubs here to move around. And the nubs are plus and minus because the nubs, I do have problems with some games aiming, but if I turn down the sensitivity, I can sometimes aim better at the games. And additionally, it does have a gyro sensor in it, and a lot of games when you have to do aiming will allow you to actually tilt the Vita and be moving like this to get it to aim, which is great. They use that very well. Overall control though, it's your basic Sony controller, and it feels wonderful. I mean, I have no issues with this. Meanwhile, let's look at our controls here, which as you can see, this is much smaller. And so your hands, let me put this down here, hands are much more cramped. And yes, you can get the larger version of it, but still, the real estate you have, it's very square, it's not ergonomically conform to your hands. It doesn't feel as comfortable to use as the Vita. And so I do have a harder time with this. So I'm going to give the point over to the Vita. Much better controls. Touch screen. Touch screen. Touch me down there! Yeah, that was kind of the joke with the original DS. Because everything happens down here. So if you need to touch anything, if you need menus and whatnot, it's all down here. And this was beautiful and interesting at the same time. Because what Nintendo basically did was they said, developers, we're giving you a second screen. You can put all your menus here so the player never has to pause. Or you can display other information or anything else that you might find helpful to the player on this bottom screen. You can do that. And that was awesome because, you know, we could interact with it. It's like Mortal Kombat. If I didn't know how to pull off a finishing move, finish him. Tap. Do-do-do. Okay, there we go. Special move just by tapping. Sweet. Meanwhile, though, and I know I said touch screen. Meanwhile, what's Sony do? Sony says, we've got this nice screen. Ooh, turned on for some reason. It's got this nice screen here, and you can touch anywhere on the screen. High resolution, so you can get as fine as you need to. But also, flip, and you've got this touch plate back here as well. And so you can interact with games in a 3D environment. Little Big Planet used this very well. Because if I need to tap a block from the back side of the room or from the front side of the room, background, foreground, and you can do more interaction with that. Now, they even had a good tech demo for the Vita where you were rolling around a little ball, and so you'd put your finger around here and you'd roll it around based on wherever your finger was on the touch plate. Beautiful, but the problem is, though, is not everyone used it. So, while this has more capabilities, the actual usage here gives this the point. Because this actually got used. Better, but better used. And I think usage would be the better point. How about cameras? So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, they both have a front camera. One here, one here. I can take selfies. Or turn them around, and I've got a camera here, and I've got two cameras. What's that about? Yeah, the 3DS they really pushed the 3D aspect of the 3DS. And so what you're looking at here is you're looking at the ability to take things in 3D. Now, is that a good thing, a bad thing, or a neutral thing? And I would say it's a neutral thing, because everything I take in 3D, it's like, look, click, I got a picture. Okay, show it to me. Can you send it to me? No. Can you post it on YouTube? No. Facebook? No. Instagram? Shut up! You can't take any of your 3D images off your 3DS and share them anywhere. At least not built in, not easily. And that really is a detriment to the system because why? You came up with this cool idea, but you don't allow us to share or do anything with it. And even places, again, like YouTube that support 3D videos, you can't interact with it. You're stuck with all your 3D stuff here. So, who gets the point? Neither, actually. I'm going to call that one a draw because while this is only a single camera, and you can only take 2D images, the 3D images on these never leave, so you're not doing anything with either, guys. Media. Might as well throw that one out. the 3DS, while it plays Netflix and it plays Hulu, it plays them poorly. The interaction with them, you do everything on the stylus down there and whatnot, but it's slow, it's cumbersome, it doesn't connect very well. And I've heard with the new 3DS, it's a little bit better, but still. Blazing fast. I've never had an issue connecting. Gets me my Hulu, gets me my YouTube, gets me my Netflix, gets me everything. It's there. It's there. Not as fast as my phone, but that's another story. I mean, I've got a Note 5. You can't compare it, right? So for streaming media, it's better to watch on this than it is to watch on your 3DS. And with the lower resolution screen, this you're getting the full effect. This you're not. Point! Now, parent-console interaction. And it's kind of neat that I can create my own Mii on this. And I can swap them around. I can take my Mii, I can push them over to my Wii U, and I can say, hey, look, that's my Mii on the Wii U. And I can swap them back and forth. But, yeah. I guess Band Hero had some interactions if you had copies. This. You can use your Vita as a controller for some games. So if I'm playing Street Fighter Cross Tekken, I can be playing on here while someone else has a regular PlayStation 3 controller. And we can be playing on the big screen. I can be playing with a lot of PlayStation 3 games over the network. That's their cross-play. I can save my game. So I have in here Deception 4 Blood Ties. And I can save this and export it to my PlayStation 3 so we can go back and forth as well. I can even create quests in this one to go over. And they do a lot of stuff where it's back and forth between the PlayStation 3 and the Vita. So parent-console interaction here, definitely a win. And we haven't even gone into the ability to fully control your PlayStation 4 from your Vita. So there's a lot of interaction that goes through here, making this a pretty slick system. 3DS just can't compare. But now, what's the most important part of a gaming system? Games. Ding ding. I'm not even going to try, okay? I'm not going to try to make a case for the Vita. Why? We were promised backwards compatibility, right? So, here's our backwards compatibility. Gonna take my UMD out there. I can't find a place to stick this thing. Thank you very much, Sony. So instead of having a UMD drive like it should have, you have to download any PSP titles, which means I have to repurchase my titles. I could give them a California howdy for that one. Because having to repurchase my old games to play them on this is not cool, Sony. Not good. Meanwhile, where did I put it? Meanwhile, let's go like this. So, here's a 3DS game. We'll just toss that aside. Here's a regular DS game. Whoa! That fit! That fit in there, guys! Awesome! Now, granted, yes, they did get rid of the ability to put your Game Boy Advance games in there. But you're talking a system that is now 2 consoles old, and you're expecting it to all be supported on a portable. I can understand that decision. I can jive with that one. Point! Downloads. Here's the downloads. I can take my Vita, and I can download PlayStation 1 titles. I can download select PlayStation 2 titles, because they have redone some for Vita. I can download PSP titles and Vita titles. That's it. Do you guys know what a Game Gear is? Game Gear used to take little, like that, cartridges. You can download a good chunk of the Sega Game Gear library for this. Why am I putting that? That's a Sega console. But you can download it for this. Oh, you can also download Genesis games for this. They've redone some of the Genesis games. Some were even put in 3D. But Sega's pushed their Genesis line to the 3DS. They've been doing it. Nintendo has put out their original NES cartridges. Super Nintendo games. Wait, Game Boy games. Game Boy Color games. Game Boy Advance games. We're talking a whole slew of systems that are playable on here as downloads. Do I even need to tell you that that is a major point for this system? Price. Price plays a portion here too, because for $300, you can get yourself a system. Actually, it's about $250 for the Vita. But you need to purchase for your Vita this wonderful little proprietary card. Look at that. Look at that. This right here, this little chip ran me about $50 for 32 gigs of storage. $50 on top of purchasing a $250 console. 200 in some cases, but $250 is how much I bought this for. This, the newest 3DS, runs about $180. Brand new. And you can use an SD card on it. Any SD card. And SD cards run, you could get a 16 gig one for about what? $8 on Amazon or something? Really cheap. Point. So while it's overall a draw between the two. Okay? And being the Sony fan I am, I love what Sony's done with their portable systems. I play my Vita far more than my 3DS. Far more. And I enjoy the games on this so much more. I gotta call it, guys. The winner is the 3DS. And why is it the 3DS? Because the most important part of a system, of a console, of a platform, is games. And hands down, not does this have more titles, but hands down, Nintendo has done a great job with delivering on their promise to make this basically one of the best portable systems ever. Nintendo, you won. You won. Now granted, yes, with PlayStation Now, I can play PlayStation 3 games on my Vita, but even then, that is not enough because you have to be tethered to a network, but I'm downloading. The only thing I will say that really is a huge strike against this is that Nintendo basically ties all of your downloads to the system, which Nintendo, that's a no-no. Why is it a no-no? Because with my Sony system, if my Sony PlayStation, or if my Vita or anything else of mine that Sony breaks, all I do is sign in to another system and I can download everything I owned onto that new system. Nintendo, if this breaks, I gotta send it into you, and I have to pay you money to get things I've already paid for. Move to a new system. That's not good. So overall, though, this does win, and I'm giving it to Nintendo on account primarily of the games. Still, I want to hear your thoughts. Comments below as always. I know this is a bit longer than usual, but I do appreciate your time, and support link, by the way, helps us out. We look forward to hearing from you next time.